Claire Pierce, 32, is the family's unpaid CFO and emotional shock absorber. When offered a life-changing promotion and move to Dublin, she hesitates because her family, a needy mother, indulgent sister Jenna, and enabling father, constantly lean on her financially and emotionally. The last straw is a demand to co-sign a $150,000 loan for Jenna's creative studio. Claire refuses, accepts the Dublin job, severs financial ties, and reclaims autonomy. The story explores boundaries, generational guilt, and the cost of caretaking. 2. Narrative structure, beginning conflict climax end, beginning, establish Claire's role, responsible, reliable, exhausted. Family dinner scenes show micro-abuses, backhanded compliments, expectations, and entitlement. The Dublin offer is introduced as a clear escape route. Conflict, Claire's inner battle between guilt/loyalty and self-preservation deepens. Family asks grow bolder, Claire's hidden ledger, notes app, visualizes emotional labor as numbers. Jenna's quitting and the cosigner request escalate stakes. Climax, the dinner confrontation over the $150,000 loan is the emotional apex. Claire says no, a radical boundary that fractures family relationships. They retaliate with guilt, ostracism, and public social posts. Claire clicks accept on Dublin and moves. End, quiet aftermath. Claire rebuilds life in Dublin, finds peace, considers but doesn't rush reconciliation. The ending is a soft triumph, freedom rather than vengeance. 3. Emotional hooks and impactful moments. Notes app ledger, tangible proof of invisible labor, a strong visual and emotional motif. Dinner scenes, small gestures, tap of a wooden spoon, tossing of a tote, show power dynamics. Every time I said yes to them, I said no to myself. A crystallized emotional line. Clicking accept, a simple action with seismic internal consequences, cinematic moment. The door knock, Dad, and Claire not opening it, powerful, physical barrier for emotional distance. Dublin apartment, minimalistic setting as rebirth, kettle, single plant, intimate, cinematic. 4. Elements that make the story go viral or relatable. Universality, many people, especially women, relate to being expected to manage others' chaos. Social media angle, Jenna's public victim posting mirrors real-life family dynamics and can spur viral clip edits. Memorable lines, short, quotable lines that play well in reels/cards. Conflict of values, security versus freedom is a high-engagement theme. Visual symbolism, receipts, spreadsheets, phone buzzes, translate well to short film visuals. 5. Weak points/opportunities for tightening pacing and length, occasional repetition. The ledger and guilt themes are reiterated without new development. Jenna and parents' depth, Jenna reads as entitled with limited nuance. Give Jenna a small vulnerable beat, fear, insecurity, to complicate audience judgment. Villainy level, some characters, Caleb, Aunt Rose, veer into one-note manipulation. Subtlety would increase emotional weight. Dialogue realism, a few lines, e.g., it's just a formality, feel too expository. Replace with gestures, silences, and subtext. Climax logic, family's threat, don't come to Thanksgiving, works, but their reactions can be shown more through actions than text messages, make stakes felt visually. 6. Suggestions for improvement show, don't tell, use micro-behaviors, which fork gets used, who clears a plate, to reveal dynamics. Flashbacks/modest memory beats, brief childhood scenes, Claire holding flashlight while Jenna performs, to explain attachments without exposition. Humanize antagonists, give Jenna a private moment, fear of failure, or a conversation with Caleb showing pressure. Make mom's manipulation reflect her own fears, not pure malice. Layered soundtrack and sound design, use kitchen clatter versus Dublin rain to contrast worlds. Symbolic objects, keep the notes app ledger but consider a physical receipt. Claire keeps tactile memory for the film. End with open possibility, don't make reconciliation mandatory, leave room for growth and future choices. 7. Ideal target audience women 25 to 45 grappling with family boundaries, emotional labor themes, and career moves. audiences of short-form emotional cinema, story-driven reels, and podcasts. Creators and viewers who enjoy intimate, character-led dramas with relatable domestic tension. Rewritten story, 6 sections, each section is almost equal to 500 words. I kept the emotional spine intact, Claire's ledger, the dinner confrontation, the cosigner demand, the accept click, and the quiet Dublin rebirth, but tightened pacing, added cinematic beats, and gave small humanizing moments to supporting characters. Section 1 Opening, introduce characters and emotional atmosphere. It begins with a sound, the measured scrape of a carving knife on a wooden board, a suburban metronome. Claire Pierce stands at the island of her parents' kitchen, sleeves rolled, jaw set. The camera is close enough to catch the tiny trembling of her left hand as she steadies the board. The oven's timer dings. Her mother, in a floral apron, wipes her hands and smiles like a practiced photograph. The family's light is warm and slightly too polished, portraits that don't move. Claire's inner voice threads through the scene, not voiceover in the melodramatic sense, but a clear cadence that feels like her thinking aloud. She narrates small facts, receipts in a folder on her bedside table, her credit on their speed dial, the date of the Dublin offer. Her voice is focused, not bitter, facts are her armor. Jenna arrives late, not apologetic, a bubble of perfume and a cream sweater that looks gifted rather than earned. She moves as someone who grew up believing applause was a birthright. She kisses their mother, flits by the island, and asks about lemon water like she's landed in a boutique hotel. The camera lingers on Claire's hands as she continues to chop parsley, each slice a metronome of endurance. Aunt Rose's laugh spills from the corner of the room. It's the kind of laugh that folds responsibility into praise. So practical, are Claire, she says. Good with that. The words taste like sugarcoating. Detail anchors the scene, a toddler photo on the mantel where a younger Jenna performs with a hairbrush microphone, Claire holding a flashlight, a static memory. The camera catches it briefly, a soft focus flashback, then returns to the present where the wooden spoon taps the oven like punctuation. Claire is the house's utility, reliable, unsung, expected. At the heart of this domestic choreography is an object Claire keeps secret, a phone, open to a notes app. We close in on rows of numbers and small italic memos. $2.16, family plan, October, $3.47, Daisy vet bill, Jan, little debts annotated with stars and dates. The list reads clinical, numbers keep no tone, no guilt. Yet it is a map of invisible labor, a ledger that tracks not only money but the slow erosion of Claire's private life. She scrolls through it briefly beneath the table, fingers steady, and then tucks the phone away as Jenna declares, carefree, I'm figuring things out. It's a journey. That word, journey, hangs, and we see two ways of traveling in the house, one of spectacle and one of quiet obligation. Claire, mid-chop, thinks of Dublin, a line in an email offering a promotion, housing included. The thought sits like a bright pebble in her palm. She touches it with a half smile and then wraps herself back into the choreography of the dinner, refilling glasses, whisking plates, handing the check because when the server arrives, the eyes will turn to her. It's an old script. She knows her cues. A small beat, her phone buzzes with Mike's message, a single line, you don't have to keep doing it. The camera pulls back as Claire watches the words. Her expression doesn't crack, it simply registers the possibility like light moving across the floor. Outside, evening light softens the room. Inside, the family continues the performance. Claire keeps chopping. Section 2, build up, deepen emotion, introduce tension. The morning after, Claire wakes with a kind of tightness that's become familiar, the anxiety of being a map everyone depends on, the elastic tautness of making room for others until she feels threadbare. She opens her laptop. The Dublin offer is a banner in her inbox, tidy bullet points, a start date 3 weeks away, housing, a raise. She hovers over accept and feels the weight of a different horizon beneath her fingertips. At lunch break, her manager texts, congrats. We'll hold it for you, and the screen goes blue. The company logo on the courier trucks she sees on her commute used to fill her with quiet pride, reliability in motion. but now the sight of those trucks tug at something undecided in her. Being dependable has always been part of her identity. She measures herself by timetables and inbox zero. It is a competence that feels like safety, until safety starts to smell like confinement. Back at home, the family's demands ratchet up. Jenna announces she quit her job. It's framed as romantic, brave, I'm exploring, she says. Mom beams the way people beam when the prospect of grandchildren and social capital line up in neat, pleasing shapes. Claire watches Jenna twirl a loop of hair and notices how confidence, for some, arrives neatly packaged with other people's currency. Guilt arrives as softly as a text ping. Jenna messages, "We found a space for the studio. We just need a co-signer." The words arrive like a trap sprung in slow motion. Claire reads the sum aloud in the empty kitchen, $150,000, the number floating like a foreign vocabulary. She rehearses responses, the logistics of co-signing, the legal peril if the venture fails, the ways banks bleed guarantors dry. Her voice remains level in her head while her pulse, in her ears, speeds up. At work, she drafts an email to HR asking for a slight adjustment on dates. She needs time to sort family logistics. She deletes it. Her life has become a ledger she rarely gets to balance for herself. A flashback, young Claire at a lemonade stand, pocket change hidden in a tin, while Jenna runs off with an audience. The flashback shows how patterns start small, how chores become obligations and audience becomes currency in a family economy. That evening, a family binder appears on the kitchen table. Jenna's vision is printed on glossy pages with mood boards and aspirational words: community, synergy, content hub. Claire's eyes land on the bottom line, handwritten in blue ink, guarantor required. Panic moves through her like a cold current. She flips through the binder and imagines a future where every misstep is one signature away from erasing her own security. She tries to negotiate. She colors her words in practical hues, recounts the numbers she carries quietly in her notes app. Her mother smiles through every sentence as if worry were a bad fashion choice. Dad's laugh keeps the air thin and brittle, his approval an old coin tossed into the well where Claire keeps her patience. Jenna crosses arms like a child taught to weaponize hurt. Claire's restraint starts to crack, not in a cyclonic blowout but in precise, surgical increments. She says no. The word is simple yet seismic. The room shifts, accusation flares from Jenna like a sudden lamp turned on. Emotional blackmail is deployed in measured sentences: "You don't believe in me, you're so practical, you never have fun." Claire feels something open and cold. She is tired of being everyone's financial emergency, tired of apology sandwiches. She refuses the cosign. Their response is immediate and ornate: guilt, an Instagram story that riffs victimhood, texts designed to isolate. Claire goes to bed with a small spreadsheet open titled Exit Plan. It is the first document she writes just for herself. Section 3, Midpoint Twist, Major Emotional/Situational Shift. The mid-morning after the refusal is the point where private rebellion becomes public rupture. Claire expects calls. She expects tears. She expects the ritualistic guilt speech. But instead, she finds a different tactic: performative victimhood. Jenna's Instagram story rolls out in soft-lit clips, teary eyes, Daisy in her lap, the caption a knife covered in frosting. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hold you back. #ToxicFamily. Comments swell with support: "You're brave, you deserve better." The digital applause lands like salt. Claire feels a strange detachment, like a spectator in her own life. The narrative others spin for her flattens complexity into a social currency. She is cast as villain and refuses to play both roles. She posts nothing, silence becomes a statement. But the pressure continues in other forms: a group text titled Family, urgent messages about what this will do, and threats thinly veiled as concern: "You can't abandon us." The accusations attempt to paint her as selfish, cruel, dangerous. Then comes the family meeting. The binder returns like a prop in an old play. The camera keeps to Claire's face, close, candid. She opens the binder and sees figures, lease terms, an ask that reads like entitlement. Her voice remains steady when she explains what a guarantor legally means. The room grows smaller, words like responsibility and trust ricochet. But in the flash of tension, something else happens. Jenna drops her mask for a second, a small break in the armor. Claire watches it like a scientist witnessing a crack in ice. Jenna's hands shake while she says, I want to create. The quiver in her voice is not just performance, it's real fear of failing, of being invisible without applause. Claire registers that, and for a breath, pity and anger coexist. The midpoint twist is not merely that Claire refuses, it's that she chooses to leave. The Dublin offer moves from tempting email to chosen lifeline. She clicks accept. The click is a quiet punctuation that reverberates through everything she knows. It is both an ending and a promise, an exit strategy translated into action. This choice detonates the family's sense of easy leverage. Anger escalates in volume, not logic. Dad's mocking laugh becomes a weapon. Mom works the tears like currency. Aunt Rose calls religion into play, saying sacrifices will be repaid. Claire watches the chorus and hears the old chorus line, "You will regret this." But what she hears beneath is the sound of a life lifting its shoulder. She packs methodically. Her exit checklist is clinical, pragmatic, unlink parents from accounts, freeze joint cards, confirm housing in Dublin. Each checkbox reads like a boundary. On the way to the airport, Claire's hands are steady on the steering wheel for the first time in years. She has chosen to carry only herself. In the seat beside her, her passport lies like a foreign currency. When she looks in the mirror, she sees someone who can make decisions without applause. It is not victory yet, it is simply motion. The midpoint is the transition from internal reckoning to external consequence. At the gate, she receives a final message, 3 words that used to make her freeze, "You'll regret this." She does not answer. She breathes, looking at a city that will keep moving whether she stays or goes. She boards the plane. Section 4, Build to Climax, Escalating Pressure and Emotional Weight. Dublin arrives in charcoal light and rain that sounds like a thin applause against the window. The city is honest in its indifference, no one knows Claire's backstory. Her company apartment is a white box with a kettle and a single plant that leans like a tentative hand. The smallness of the place is a relief, no whispers, no unpaid bills to hide from. She spends the first week creating routines that have nothing to do with other people's needs, a morning walk along the canal, a bakery where the baker remembers her order, nights cooking for one and savoring the silence. Back home, the family's response cracks into a social and logistical offensive. First, a cascade of missed calls. Then, texts escalate from pleading to punitive, Thanksgiving barred, scathing social posts, an aunt calling to pray. Jenna's posts twist the story, and the internet, brief, uncharitable, takes sides. Claire watches news-like bursts of drama in her notifications and feels the old reflex to fix. But this time, instead of answering, she opens a spreadsheet titled Exit Plan and makes practical edits, freeze credit lines, remove autopay, server contact information. She unlinks accounts with the calm precision of someone severing ties that have strangled her. Practically, the stakes sharpen. Her name is used as collateral. Her credit could be at risk from a default. The legal reality presses in, and Jenna visits during a spontaneous layover, eyes bright with a plea she expects to be automatic. Just one signature, Jenna whispers in a coffee shop. The intimate setting matters. The request is no longer a binder on a table but a breath between sisters. She speaks of dreams and manifestation and how the bank requires someone solid. Claire watches the tremor in Jenna's lip and in the pause that follows Jenna's rehearsed lines. She imagines a future where Jenna's studio becomes the debt that buries her. Claire's internal landscape becomes a battlefield. She misses the comfort of family approval in small, reflexive ways, the feeling of being needed, which used to translate to love. She calls Mike. He listens, not to fix but to steady. He says what she needs, this is not about being cruel. It's about being safe. His calm voice becomes a buoy. But the outside world gets louder. Dad's calls escalate from sarcasm to threats. Aunt Rose prays. Jenna's followers cheer her vulnerability. The social performance grows teeth. Claire receives a legal notice, a form letter that says potential guarantors are being considered for a specific loan. The wording is bureaucratic and cold. It could become a legal lever. She knows the bank will consider her if she's willing. The choice becomes irreversible when the bank sees signatories. Claire meets with a lawyer who explains worst-case scenarios: seizure, a ruined credit score, and the lecture transforms abstract fear into concrete cost. The climax in the family home is compressed. It isn't a single slam of a door but a stacking of consequences. Claire locks her phone and goes to the airport. She is leaving a life that expected her to be liquidity, to be a stopgap in everyone's storm. In the taxi, the weight of freedom presses into her ribcage, not with triumph but with the ache of real cost. She is choosing a future by paying an immediate price: exile, estrangement, and the knowledge that she may have to build a new kind of love, one that isn't measured in receipts. Section 5, the climax, emotional high point. The climax arrives not as a headline moment of shouting in glass, but as a small, irreversible set of actions with loud consequences. Claire is home for what might be the last time. The kitchen is staged like a courtroom. Sunlight slices across the island and catches motes of dust like witnesses. Jenna's binder sits open between them, its pages suddenly mundane: pie charts and mood boards, and Elise with a box checked "guarantor required." Mom's face is a practiced softness, Dad's jaw tighter than usual, but it is Jenna who sits across from Claire with a look that is equal parts pleading and entitlement. Claire exhales. The words she uses are clinical, almost eerily calm. She describes how a guarantor contract works, the liability, the legal ramifications. Around her, the family hears what they have not allowed themselves to hear before: truth without polish. If it fails, Claire says slowly, I am on the hook for everything. She says something else, quieter: I do not have to be your risk mitigation. For the first time in a decade, she flattens expectation with clarity. The silence that follows is a taut string. Then the assault of emotional theater. Mom's voice breaks. She pleads, reminding Claire of childhood stories retold like scripture. Aunt Rose offers biblical arithmetic: give and be given. Dad attempts to reduce her refusal to insolence with a short, sharp laugh. Jenna writes a private message and then, like oxygen to a fire, posts a video clip of Claire's coolness stitched with vulnerable footage of Jenna saying she just needs a chance. The clip is a Machiavellian edit that paints Claire as cruel in 30 seconds. Comments roll in like applause at a show. Claire feels the sting but also clarity. She reads the contract again, then stands up slowly. She says one sentence that reframes everything she has ever been expected to be: I will not co-sign your life. The phrase is small, exact, and it lands like a gavel. Jenna explodes: accusations of betrayal, of withholding love. Dad huffs. Mom cries. Claire listens to it all: the grief, the anger, the accusations, without stepping back. She makes another smaller action: she clicks accept on the Dublin contract. The click is a private punctuation. She tells them to find another guarantor. It is not triumph, it is the end of emotional servitude. The family calls, then stages a poetic act: a boycott of Thanksgiving, the withdrawal of social rituals. Claire shuts the door on the last call and packs a single suitcase. Dad knocks that night and calls her coward. She does not open. Her boundary must be defended physically as well as verbally. At the airport, she stands alone at the gate and feels the old reflex to justify herself. She does not. She thinks of the ledger on her phone and the line she added: exit plan. The plane lifts with a sound like a thing finally giving way. Her chest tightens, and then relief pours in like a light. The climax is less a blowout and more a decision that ripples outward, changing relationships and the story everyone tells. She boards and, as the city slips away, 1,000 little demands flutter into silence. For the first time, the sound in her ears is her own breath. Section 6 ending, close emotionally, leave impression. Dublin is grey and honest. Its rain is not melodramatic but steady, as if the world here has no appetite for personal drama. Claire's new flat is compact and efficient, a kettle, a narrow window with a plant leaning toward light, a small table. She unpacks carefully, folding clothes as if folding a past into small, manageable pieces. The silence is startling, not empty, but capacious. Days pass in practical increments, meetings, onboarding, a new commute. Claire wakes to the sound of rain on the sill and a city that does not demand to be kept afloat by her goodwill. She cooks dinner for one and notices she can leave a pan to cool without a looming call. Freedom, she learns, is sometimes quiet enough to be mistaken for nothing. Back home, the family's noise recedes into the filtered glow of a phone screen. Jenna posts with performance-ready vulnerability. Aunt Rose calls sometimes to check if Claire is all right, reasoning that distance can mend hearts. Dad leaves a voice message that is more uncertain than mocking this time. Some messages she lets sit unread. Some land like paper boats, they float and sink. Claire opens the Notes app one evening and scrolls to the ledger that once read like a confession. She deletes a line, unlink utilities. Another, freeze card. Each deletion is small, ceremonial. At the bottom she types one new entry, I will not cosign chaos. She leaves it and shuts the phone. Not all wounds heal. Not every relationship can be reset with time. But distance gives perspective. She can remember the girl who held a flashlight under a hairbrush microphone and smile without regret. A message from Jenna comes months later, are you happy? It is spare, ambiguous. Claire pauses, thinking of the way happy once meant compliance and now means something steadier. She types back, I hope you find what you're looking for. I can't fund the search. She presses send and feels neither triumph nor cruelty, only a clarity like a window cleaned. At work, her competence is met with new validation. When her manager praises her solo project, the feeling that rises is not the performance glow of being approved, but quiet satisfaction. She keeps a small notebook by her kettle, a list not of debts owed to others but of things she wants to build, a travel plan, a savings goal, a line item called therapy. The notepad is modest, human. Months later on a rainy Sunday, she makes tea and sits by the canal. Mike is in the small kitchen reading a travel guide. They are no longer two halves of a rescuer-rescued dynamic, they are companions with shared luggage and shared boundaries. Claire watches the rain make concentric rings and thinks of the final night at home when she closed the door on the knock. She remembers the sound of her father's footsteps and of her own breath steadying. She thinks of the ledger, the binder's legalese, and the little click that changed everything. She places a small folded note in the drawer, an old promise to herself, I won't call neglect help. I won't trade peace for access. She shuts the drawer, and the world rolls on. Her choice did not produce fireworks or public catharsis. Instead it produced something quieter, a life that belonged to her. She sips her tea and looks at the rain. For once, silence is not empty, it is full. She is not running. She is living.